know more about her.
Yeah.
I knew the At 17 song, but just to kind of hear about her life, and she's an interesting character. The fact she dropped out of, nice Jewish girl, dropped out of high school at 16 and moved in with her boyfriend. I think during those times was probably quite different.
Yep, it
And
was.
Society's Child, I didn't know about that song. It was interesting to hear about that.
Did you know about it when you were growing up? Did you hear
No,
it? Oh, you
I
didn't.
knew At 17, but not Society's
Yeah,
Child.
because that was earlier. I knew about them, but I didn't really understand their importance. Uh, Jeff, what about you? What do you think?
Um, well, what happened was that, and I'm curious, if everybody kind of sees this, which is like I watched this film and I keep watching these biopics now of musicians. Like there's the new one about Billy Joel that came
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
and
I've
then
seen
there's one about George Harrison. So this got me on a feeding frenzy of these biographies of these musicians, and I just it, it, it it's it strikes me that it's a cultural phenomenon that's going on. You're getting all these films about these musicians, and why is that? Why suddenly are musicians kind of taking such center
it.
stage?
Before they die. They're
Oh,
cold.
I'm thinking of Queen. I'm thinking, I mean, there's all these films now about musicians.
It may seem
Instead of
like it's
writing a book, they make a film.
yeah, no, but it's like these films about celebrities, celebrity musicians are not new. It's been a generation. Leacock Pennybaker did Bob Dylan holding up poster cards with the lyrics of
Yeah,
you get the song.
yeah, no.
It's not a new phenomenon. Maybe you're more aware of it now. But uh, for me, what I noticed is that we people in our cohort lived through her era.
Absolutely.
And she was experiencing many of the pressures and the conflict that she had as a person of conscience um, about the status of our culture and the meanness of society that was so cruel to blacks. And it's like this is our history, it's like I saw myself going through the eras the way she did. And to me, it was like a great mirror on myself. And then you add the overlay of her realizing she was gay and coming out and living authentically. That was terrific, and certainly that's topical in itself. I found that it wasn't the feeling I left the film with was not that, oh, she's gay. No, oh, this is a woman who managed to find herself and was all the better for living it. Gay, liberal, progressive, rebel. Uh, it didn't matter what other people thought. What mattered was she true to herself and that she still believed she had a message to share with people.
She also had an abusive husband.
Oh, the Tino guy, the Italian guy, yeah. But the guy before, her companion, was nothing but loving. And when she left him for another woman, he said, I was happy for her. Yeah. So, come on, it's don't blame all of us guys. But yeah,
She had
Tino,
a lot going on in her life.
yeah, yeah. But again, this is her process of self-discovery. Like she said herself, I forget the first lover's name. He was the perfect father for me, and Tina was another father figure for me, and I needed that in my life, and it's okay. And what I loved about this film was it shows her uh, growing self-awareness. It's almost like a form of self-therapy. She's analyzing herself before us. She's been through this a lot. She knows what she was doing, where she was, what she was doing, and why, and how she felt. And to me, I think it's astonishing the degree of intimacy that the filmmaker developed with her. You rarely see, Jeff, in these documentaries about musicians, uh, anything that's that close to the bone. There's always something they're holding back. They still have their brand to protect. She had no brand to protect at any time. If anything, she rebelled against any effort to make her a brand. The record labels, the managers, the people who were her friends were the recording artists. This guy, Arthur Brooks, was so instrumental in her career, technically and creatively. So this was somebody who embraced her success, but exploited it not for the money, not for fame, but because it freed her, it gave her license to express herself further. You know, she was a true artist, and at one point, Arthur Brooks, the recording engineer, said, "We made art together." And if you think about what she was doing, it's this total in a form, which is a musical form, but the medium expressed all the emotions, the feelings that she was having. So she painted her story with music and lyrics. You know, she wasn't thinking in terms of an essay or a self-analysis. She was thinking in terms of music, just like some artists, some pictorial artists, you know, don't think in terms of what it means on the canvas. They think about what's the impact it has on the person. You know, what does it make you feel? And they are thinking in graphically, musically in terms of their own logic because they live music. You know, music is in her bones. It's in her DNA, probably in her brain wiring. And that's to me, you know, one of the marks of an artist who says things in ways that can't be expressed in other ways. She could only have been a songwriter singer. Of course, she was a poet as well, like Paul Simon. Um, but this is like she achieved a kind of freedom, a kind of liberation in that she could tell her story her own way in her own style, which was music. So I really admired that. I mean, you know, look, what am I? I'm a refugee from the film business, where you couldn't tell your own story. You had to tell the story that they thought people would want to see and would make money. You know, it's like, no, no, I'm a person. And so she resisted that. And back in the 60s, you know, when it was much more primitive, the music industry and marketing promotion, there were only, you know, 4 television stations and, you know, a handful of radio stations in each city. You know, she didn't try to become a brand. She tried to become herself. And to me, that's the real lesson and the remarkable achievement of the film is that the filmmaker got to know her well enough. By the way, the filmmaker lives in Los Angeles. She's American born, but of foreign parents. She's Jewish. I heard her speak at Palm Springs. And I still don't understand how she got permission to do this with her, where other people must have pursued Janis Ian for decades. But she got to do it. And she really, if anything, she did it in too detailed a manner. There's too many stops along the historical path that, you know, kind of repeat other steps. But fascinating to see that part of history revealed and the importance of Black culture and Black music on her and how they were each channeling each other. It's like it was a great convergence in this personality and in her music. So, so Fern, I toss it to you. What's wrong with what I said?
Well, there's nothing wrong with what you said.
Yeah.
It's how it hit me.
Yeah.
First of all, it's my music. I did know her stuff. I was a big fan of hers, and I did know her music, and I loved it. I didn't like her very much.
Why is that?
Oh, for probably precisely the reason you thought it was spectacular. She lived and breathed music, but I didn't feel that she connected with humans. Her all of her feelings, all of her stuff was in the song making and in her control over it. And she didn't touch me personally. She didn't feel relational in any real way, other than with her partner. Eventually she did, but she's just kind of not my kind of person. And I was bored. I thought it was not a well done, it wasn't an interesting film. It raised many issues, as that era did, but not in a form that captivating me. I kept getting up, I kept eating.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed because I liked her. I have, still have the records, my
Yeah.
LPs that I listened to over and over and over.
But when you listened to her as a young woman, you found
That was
inspiration.
remarkable.
You connected with her.
I didn't connect with her personally, but because she was just kind of into herself. She knew what she wanted. Nobody else was,
But
everybody
what
was.
about the issues? Didn't the issues she dealt with, weren't they your issues too?
Yes, they were. I just didn't think the presentation of it was interesting.
Okay, and so
So it was
I
just,
really enjoyed the film.
yeah.
One of the things that I thought was fascinating that I didn't know is that Leonard Bernstein,
yeah,
that he was
Yeah.
critical in getting Society's Child
yeah,
on the air and so forth, and recognizing her brilliance
Yeah.
at such an early age.
Yeah.
She was like 14 years old and so forth. But one of the things like I say, I'm looking at all these various films about these different musicians. I also think one thing, there is suffering in all of these people, whether it was George Harrison or Billy Joel or her, that to some extent the artist maybe needs suffering in order to fully realize themselves. And there was a second point.
Jeffrey, while you're thinking of the second point,
Yeah.
I'd like to stay on your first point for a minute, because I do think that's an interesting question. I think probably everybody needs suffering.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say, it's connected, I think, is that for musicians, that music is the way in which they express their emotions, and they
Yes.
can't stop. I mean, it's like they always have a guitar with them, and they're always practicing, and they're always kind of like singing or trying to come up with lyrics. That it's an extraordinary kind of ability. And the two things, the suffering, but also the way of emitting that suffering through music, as opposed to being necessarily do it in the spoken word or in relationships. I think that's interesting about artists.
well, suffering is a big theme in autobiographies about artists. There's so many, and yet I think you nailed it when you said these people thought in terms of their music. They felt in terms of their music because that was their DNA. They saw the world through music.
Or in lieu of sometimes. That's what I guess maybe
Okay, what
some
did you
of what
think
I
she
felt
missed?
was,
You feel she missed out on connection, on human
yes,
connection?
yes. I think all of her relationships and her feelings were channeled through her music. It's not atypical. I think Jeff is
Yeah.
right. It's typical. It's just not very appealing to me. But the music is appealing to me, but as people, they're not. And it's distant.
I get it. I get what
She's
you're saying.
emotionally distant, but she expresses it deeply in her music, and it's what she lives with all the time.
But why granted, okay, she was distant for you, but how do you explain how many people she connected with in a very intimate way?
The music is deep. The
Yeah.
music is intimate. She poured everything into her
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
But this wasn't just about her music, as you said. It was about her and her journey. And so I couldn't connect with her. I do connect to her music deeply.
So she was singing to you, but not talking to you. She was not sharing herself enough with you, even though you shared with the concepts and ideas in her music
Yes, I think
and
so.
feelings.
And on the second and related issue, I think that ultimately suffering, as whether we would like to acknowledge it or not, one does not deepen without suffering.
Right.
It's simply not just musicians. They just
No,
express
everybody.
their sufferings through music, but we all if you don't suffer, you will wind up not connected to the human condition
Yeah.
or not noticing the human
Right.
condition.
There's a wonderful lyric that she wrote that Nina Simone sings in the song, something about um, how life beats you up, and she was innocent, and all this happened before life got to her, and that was very a telling way for me of saying, yes, the toll of being alive is great. Um, and it's a good thing she didn't kill herself,
Did you see Nina Simone, the movie where
No, I haven't seen it. It's supposed to be very good, yeah. So that was different for you, the Nina Simone movie.
yeah,
That's a tragic story.
tragic story, and
She
it's
was easily
portrayed.
as talented.
Yeah.
And the performance that she did of the song, sort of shows that they were kindred spirits.
Yes.
But another interesting thing was we were talking about suffering, that the song that really kicked her into high gear was the Don McLean song about Vincent van Gogh, how you suffered for your, whatever the lyric,
Sanity.
Sanity.
your sanity, right? It was a struggle. And he was observing the process, she was experiencing the process and shared it. Now, it may have been egocentric to you, but I think she took Don McLean's song and took it a step further.
She did.
Uh, um, maybe I'm just softer, and I appreciate seeing people crucify themselves. You know what I mean? It's like when they break and they share, and I don't feel they're deceiving themselves or me in any way. I say, wow, that's better than I've done, and I wish more people did that.
Just
So,
in contrast, I saw the Neil Diamond play,
yeah,
which loosely tells the story of his life and how he was a loner as a kid, and that his music really destroyed his marriages because he was so obsessed with it and performing.
well, success will do that, won't it? It
Well,
makes you single-minded.
it was interesting, Cindy. I saw it too. And I agree with what you're saying. And I think that what he was doing was he was lonely and he thought he would cure his loneliness by having audiences adore him.
Even though he was always with a woman.
Right. But
was
he didn't
lonely.
get close to the women. He thought he would get filled up and get human connection by having, screaming tens of thousands of
Yeah.
people. And it turned, it's not the way to combat loneliness, standing in front of large crowds who clap for you. But that's what he did until he got Parkinson's at the end.
Mhm.
But he has this young wife now.
Yeah, well, it's
When you
happening.
when you have that much money, it's easy to get a young wife.
Yeah. I think there was a line in a Tom Wolfe book where there's a real estate developer who's just this little creepy guy, and he's got a second beautiful trophy wife with him, and her friends say, how can you stand to be with him? He's such a little dweeb. And he says, when he stands on his wallet, he is the tallest guy in the
Your New York sensibility. Realistic, but cynical at the same time.
Yeah.
Steve Greenberg, do you have any thoughts on that? You don't have to speak up if you don't want to, Steve. Okay. Rob, okay, Steve,
Not
go ahead.
not on the size of the wallet, but one thing that struck me, and maybe you can enlighten me, was they didn't look like reconstructions, but there was a lot of footage like of Janis and her lover going into a door to move in somewhere. And obviously there was no cameraman there 50 years ago doing that. So
it's called reenactments. There were a lot of them throughout, but they were not whole scenes. They were like linkages and illustrations. Like she goes and takes a shower, and there's a shot of the shower head and the water going down.
sure.
It's not psycho, but it fills the time while she's saying what she has to say, and it still conveys the idea of shower. So
I thought that they got footage of somehow they had footage of the real people, decades ago, and it just they were really good lookalikes, I guess.
Yeah, well, you remember this was the 60s and Super 8 was plentiful, and going forward from there was more and more media available that has been saved.
Yeah.
So I think they did a great job of weaving the reenactments with the real stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Robin, do you have any thoughts on it?
I have to figure out how to unmute on my phone. Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, I was trying to put the video on. I'm in Santa Cruz anyhow, so this is a little different than watching from the PC at home. No, I'm just listening. I think the discussions are interesting, and what I'm really interested in everyone's thought process and how they come to conclusions about movies or different things. That's just I didn't see the movie, but it's the style more than the content that I find interesting.
Yeah. Well, my approach professionally as well as in the group here is not to say, what did the movie maker mean? What did the moment mean to you? And to examine the film through our reactions. Because if the movie doesn't connect with us, it fails, right?
Yeah.
So all you have to judge its success by is how much did it reach you?
Yeah.
So the process then is breaking down your own reactions, which to me, I think, when you're reading a book, there's nobody else there to say, well, what do you think about that? Maybe in your seminar, your senior seminar, you get that. But it's like movies have a great way of making us think about ourselves, and calling our own processes, our intellectual and emotional processes to the fore and making us examine ourselves because they're a challenge to us to deal with it by dealing with ourselves. So that's why I love movies, and I always have. I didn't realize it for many years until I finally realized that what I loved about film so much.
What I really like about the music biographies is when they connect the song to what was going on in the songwriter's life.
They did that very well, I thought.
And the Neil Diamond does that, and the Bob Dylan did that a lot. And
I think musicians really kind of blow my mind because it's like they tap into something that's in the universe and they channel it in some way. And it's kind of just mind-boggling how they do that. Somehow that it's speaking to them in this particular language of music. Because I don't know.
I don't think they could tell you that, Jeffrey. It's like all artists can't tell you exactly what their process is. They just know they have to do it because
right.
Something.
But I can relate to writing and it's something that's kind of familiar to me of somehow channeling and writing, but music, the idea of somehow music penetrating you is just something I can't even wrap my head around.
But that's because they're different from you and me.
Yes.
It's how they think and feel.
Yeah.
When you're trying to write something, you think about what's my goal here and how do I achieve it and what have I put down on paper and is it successful or not? And you edit yourself and you revise and new ideas come to you and you work on it. It's not like it's a bolt of lightning for musicians or painters or sculptors. They go through a lot of that editing process of their own ideas as well, but it doesn't come out that way because it's not measurable. The way you can say, oh, this essay draft is better than the one before because it's clearer. All they can say is this to me conveys a clearer emotion, but they can't tell you what it is. It's because it's unique unto itself. That's the point about art, is that nobody could have told it any other way from superior artists. There are lots of imitators and sound alikes in music or art or movies, but the real artists are their own people, their own voice, and
I love the film, and like I say, now I'm on a feeding frenzy of musicians, but I've got to go. It's later here in Chicago.
Yeah, okay.
So, I'll just say good night to everybody.
All right, well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I know. Okay, now we can talk about him. No. He's very sweet. He's for Robin and Steve. Jeffrey is he teaches Jewish history in a Jewish day school in Chicago. and is a specialist in Holocaust education to teens.
Mm.
And he's always a great resource when we have that kind of film. And his
So
brother,
how did you, was he ever a temple member or anything?
no, his brother is though. His brother, Brad,
Okay.
and Brad's wife Karen, they're Wilshire Boulevard Temple congregants.
Oh,
And I've known Brad for eons back in the day when we were University Synagogue. And he's also great in other ways. He's much more erudite and sort of literate and more historically minded. But Jeff has his own contributions to make. And I mean, I'm not surprised they're brothers, because they're both very thoughtful and caring people.
yeah.
But no, he phones in. His girlfriend, his partner, Robbie, sometimes participates, but we haven't seen her. And Brad lives on Ocean Avenue in Santa Monica. Are you LA based, Robin?
Yeah, I live in Venice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Well, please, we do this during the summer. It's about once a month, but during the year, I try and take it up to 2 discussions a month.
Yeah.
And this is great because it's only the 5 of us, and that's rare. Usually we have about 20 windows open with a few couples together there, and it can be very interesting and different points of view. I mean, the last couple sessions we had really not conflicting, but it was we had great discussions when we don't agree.
I just wanted to comment on, tuning into life issues or, issues of meaning through movies. I
Yeah.
think it's probably similar for me, at least, and I think probably for many people, that book clubs do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of tuning, when it's done well, it's a way of tuning into what is the meaning in your life and how other people have meaning in their lives and what we can learn from it and what we can share, and questions about what it is to be a human. And I think that that's what this class is often about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's I intentionally try and program films that ask that question.
Yeah. So
I mean, the fun films, I don't have people see fun films all on their own, but I try and find films that will provoke discussion, some more successful than others.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a different process. Somebody asked me once, what was the difference between reading and movies? And the answer is movies, you're kind of manipulated by the filmmakers. You have to run straight through it. And that's where your own reactions, when you review them, tell you a lot about yourself. Whereas when you're reading a book, you have moments to reflect upon, did I like that chapter? What did that sentence mean?
Yeah.
You're much more a critic, and you're also examining your own reactions to it on a more granular basis. A good film just pushes you from one moment to the next without giving you much time to examine your own feelings, but lets you run with them.
I wonder if you can compare like this kind of movie. I understand there are different genres, but this movie, for example, with watching the Bob Dylan, A Complete Unknown, which I thought was very successful, and extremely interesting to me and engaging. I guess, when you were asking, why didn't I like it?
Yeah.
I was
like the other one better.
Yes, far
more
better.
Revealing.
Yeah.
Well,
Just more interesting. It captured my attention in a way that to get emotionally sucked into a documentary is not easy.
No, it's not. Because there's nothing seductive about stock footage or historical footage that isn't beautifully orchestrated.
Right.
So it's much less seductive. Yet she drew me in, and I can see why it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Can
you think of a documentary that is like emotionally very engaging?
I have an idea. I don't know if this is I met a woman at the gym who um, told me she had been part of one of the women who came here from Vietnam. They were mostly wives of military men in the
Yep.
in the 70s, and she's featured in the film. It's something on PBS, and it was called something like Nailed It. But it's these women got here and they lived in Hope Village and pretty much just had each other. They didn't have their life, whatever. And Tippi Hedren made a point of going to see them to see what kind of work they might want to do. And they were so taken with her nails that they become nail technicians. And this woman I met, I forgot it, her name was Lethan. I forget, she was in the first class of 25 women who were nail technicians. It was sort of the Vietnamese nail industry. But I just thought it was the most interesting documentary.
Well, there are many, and documentary is such a big topic. The Frederick Wiseman and the Maysles brothers did what's called cinema verite documentary, where they didn't really set up scenes. They just turned their cameras on and captured what was happening in front of them. And then they edited it together more meaningfully. And these can be very powerful. There's one called Chitticut Follies, filmed inside a mental institution in the days when you could do that, in like the 50s or 60s, that shows all this brutality of the staff towards these horribly sick patients. There's a late Maysles brothers film about a Jewish bungalow colony that had to come to terms. Didn't we see that, Fernie?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and that was a little difficult because when the board meeting was meeting, the board members were meeting, they asked the filmmakers to leave, and they did. So it's like, okay, well, we don't get to really see what goes on. But they were quite senior when they made that. It's like, for me, the woman filmmaker, Varda, achieved a remarkable sense of trust from Janis Ian to do this. At the same time, Janis Ian, and for maybe this is what you felt, was so into herself that she loved having a grateful audience, willing ears, who would just take in whatever she said. I think what she said was very insightful about herself, but I think that's what she was waiting to hear, was somebody who would report on it accurately, tell her story the way she wanted to hear it. Although I don't know how else he could have seen it, how else he could have shown it. I'm looking through the films that we've seen. We haven't really seen that many documentaries over the last 5 years, but
well, they're harder to have discussions about because they're not quite as character driven and so on. And they're, it's like book clubs tend to read fiction because it's a better conversation, not necessarily because it's more interesting or whatever.
Yeah, well, fiction films they can focus and they can go deeper into a narrower topic, a narrower view of the person or the subject. But when you get into documentary films, it's more like people more often take the bigger view, the wider view. And so they are less intimate. Oh, here's one we saw called The Mole Agent. Remember about the woman who goes undercover in a nursing home in Argentina or Chile?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, what an amazing film that was.
Yeah.
All hidden camera stuff. And she had an actor who pretended to be a resident in a nursing home. And he led the camera crew into all these interactions with families and residents there and staff. It was a remarkable film. She went on to make another film recently. I don't remember what that was. But the hidden camera things really have a way of looking real, because they are. People aren't performing for the camera. They're not trying to accomplish they're not thinking of the audience, they're just being themselves. And here's another documentary we saw called I Am Not Your Negro by James Baldwin. It's all in James Baldwin's words about what is the Negro situation in America and globally.
Right.
And of course, his words are wonderful, but his own personal story is great as well. And you realize the net result of that film is, oh my God, this guy was an amazingly insightful writer, and mostly in terms of connecting us white folk with how he and other Black people were really feeling what we did to them. And it's a remarkable document, and just his words are beautiful. A great, great writer, but very powerful. What else did we see? You know, I don't want to go back all over the 150 films.
Okay. That's okay.
But you know, it's possible that documentaries can do that. Okay, we saw a film called Jewish Soldiers in Gray and Blue about Jewish families on either side of the Civil War, which wasn't necessarily intimate, but oh my God, was that a knockout in terms of bringing us into the point of view of how these families, you know, who share a religious or cultural tradition could be at odds with each other. So, you know, you could do that in a drama, I suppose, as well. But the fact that it was done with real documents and real letters and reportage, you know, had a different weight. So yeah, I try and program these things. You know, I'm really surprised at tonight because I thought this film would be a real home run. After Mickey won, I thought I'd deliver something really emotional. You know, and people didn't seem to love Mickey won, although that was a great discussion we had. But people didn't warm to this. I don't know how many saw it or not. But that's okay. It's not about am I right or wrong in my calls. I just don't want to. I don't want to program films that you don't like or feel like talking about. So
sorry to have watched it. I'm never sorry to have watched something that somebody thinks is interesting and find out what they liked about it. So
yeah, okay. Well, not everybody shares your curiosity. You know. Okay,
when's our next? Do you know when we're meeting again?
Well, it'll be once in August. Let me see. There are a bunch of great films that are finally, like I had to wait months. I saw this film in January at the Palm Springs Film Festival. I had to wait until now until it became available. So I'm not going to program films that you have to go.
Temple's doing a few films in August.
What?
Temple is doing 3 films in August.
Yeah. And they were on the in the bulletin today. There's one thing I really want to play for you. It's called Still Alice with Julianne Moore. She plays somebody who's suffering from early onset Alzheimer's. It's so heartbreaking. It's about her relationship with her adult children.
Yeah.
And powerful. Then there's Sing Sing with Coleman Domingo about an acting troupe inside Sing Sing, the prison.
Oh, it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, isn't it? Really, it's almost documentary. That's one of these quasi realistic films.
Yeah.
And then there's a really lovely film. I liked it. All Shall Be Well, about 2 gay Chinese older women. And when one of them dies, the family begins to fight over who gets the rights to the apartment. And it's almost like The Farewell, the Chinese film we saw, where it's a real insight into the sensitive, not mean feelings of Asian people that we may not have been aware of. And, you know, American families would fight over an estate too, but there's slightly different colors to this one. Robert Reich, the economist who was labor secretary under Clinton, has a documentary. It's on Apple TV. It's no longer on Amazon Prime. It's called The Last Class.
You can see it here at this week. They extended it for another week.
Where?
The new art.
Really? I didn't know that.
I saw it.
And we're seeing?
Yes, it's not very good filmmaking.
No.
Like they have a lot of shots of feet walking.
Okay, yeah. Him talking and Pete walking. Okay.
Yeah, but he's very interesting.
Yeah, I went to college with him. He was a year ahead of me. And he was like the intellectual who could, you know, he's 5 feet tall, so it was easy for him to pretend he was above everybody. But he was intellectually, but a bit full of himself even then. But he, you know, he's a social economist and really has fought the good fight since being labor secretary. And again, there's this book by Meshulam Riklis, Israeli filmmaker, reading Lolita in Tehran, about a women's book group in Tehran after the revolution. And it's not out yet. I just can't wait to show it to you because it's so relevant and so informs us of what life was like for thoughtful women during the early days of the revolution in Iran. But it's not out yet. And I'm going to show in November, Susan Nannis suggested we wait because it's so grim. She doesn't like grim movies. I mentioned this, called The World Will Tremble, about the two men who escaped from Chelmno, the first concentration camp that killed Jews. True story, and very well researched. A little bit self-indulgent, but very moving, very emotional. So we're going to show that the week of Kristallnacht in November. So I said, okay, as long as you show it, but that's going to be synagogue-wide in the theater. And it's worth seeing on a bigger screen.
I mentioned to you in an email, and I just want to emphasize it. I went to see Tatiana.
What, Tatiana?
It was incredible.
It
is about an Iranian woman who's competing in the jiu-jitsu,
yeah.
In the judo world championship. It's produced by an Israeli, and the story is about her competing in the world judo championship against potentially going to end up fighting an Israeli. And her government doesn't want her to do it because if she loses, it's a humiliation.
Yeah.
And you see what it means to live under a
Trump administration state. Okay, we get it.
And it's very, very well done.
I didn't know how well done it was, but now that I know more of it, I'll take a look at it. Tatiana. Yeah, no, that's going around. So the last class, Lolita. There's some older films I want to see that are much better than Mickey 1. One is The Apartment with Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine.
I think we saw that. Did we not see that?
No, I haven't shown that yet here.
Okay.
And it's about the schlumpy guy who lets his boss use his apartment to have secret trysts with his girlfriends. And he dumps one of them, and she winds up crying on Jack Lemmon's shoulder, and he sort of nurtures her through the separation, and they become friends and then form a relationship. It's a Billy Wilder movie. It's one of his best. Really amazing film from the writing standpoint and performance. And then there's There Will Be Blood. I forget what it's about, but we must see it. I will see it first, of course. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's a Jim Carrey movie where he's in a television show, but he doesn't know it. And the whole world is around him is like a part of a set. And he finally breaks through and realizes that all his life has been created for him. It's kind of metaphorical, but it's very well done. Missing, the Jack Lemmon movie, it's very much like I'm Still Here, where father goes to Argentina to see what happened to his disappeared son. I think Lemmon was nominated or won an Oscar for his role in that. And there's so many others, the list goes on, but those are the one I'm most keen to show you. And we'll see, it's like after Mickey 1, I have to admit my wings are kind of clipped, because we had a great discussion about Mickey 1, but even though people didn't like it, I think it was important to see because it's a metaphorical film and an example of what that kind of filmmaking is like. So I was happy to share it with you. But I'm kind of like gun shy about programming something that's opaque, that is that opaque for you. Because look, if you people want to have fun watching the movies, what's the point of doing this? It's like, it's not about me. I'm trying to find stuff that really works for you. Pink Lady is available. It's about an Orthodox couple in Israel. The guy is gay and can admit it to his wife, and she catches him in the act. And it's all about how she, against the advice of her family, stays with him and how they come to closure on it. He willingly gives her a get. But it's very well told, very low budget, but genuine and sincere. And there's one I'm fond of. I'm not sure anybody will like it. It's called Better Man, about the downfall of a British rocker, into drugs, sex, and self-indulgence. Except the character of the rocker is played by a character who looks like a chimpanzee, and he speaks English. And it totally turns the genre on its head. And it's a true story about a real British rocker who hit bottom and then finally came back up and realized the error of his ways. I really liked it, mostly because it's so clever and well done, but if it doesn't appeal to people. But the CGI of putting the monkey face on the man's expressions and body is really wonderful. And who knows? My list goes on and on. And
All right.
so I wish I could, it takes time
Surprise us.
I'm sure I will surprise you. But I'm glad you all joined us. I'm happy to do it for just 4 people because it's kind of like more fun that way. We get to hone in on each other's feelings a little more. So you'll hear from me beginning of the month or first week of August, and we'll pick a date.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you all.
Bye.